But I've loved listening to the others, the other podcasts.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them as well, so it's quite nice.
On this season, it's been really lovely that people know the guests, because season 1 is kind of starting out, and I did it really for like a LinkedIn audience, so no one knows them in Lee, and it kind of missed out on the demographic around here. But yeah, the minute you start putting out like Charlotte Sayer,
I know.
Yeah, everyone knows. And as you say, like in the nicest possible way, people are nosy. People are intrigued and curious about what's been going on.
And this is really interesting as well.
Yeah.
You know, where people started.
Yes, I think so.
And usually it's completely opposite to what they've ended up doing.
JobsWorth, Season 2, Episode 9, From Genoa to Jewellery. Welcome to episode 9 of JobsWorth Season 2. My guest this time around is Clio Sigismondi, founder and creative director of Black and Sigi, a jewellery design brand based in Leigh-on-Sea. Born in Genoa, Italy, Clio and her family moved to the UK when she was 6 years old following the death of her dad. She didn't speak English, despite her mum growing up in Essex, and quickly found herself in a primary school where she would learn the ropes, or in this case the language, as she went. In this episode, we discuss Clio's transition to life in the UK, her experience of education, her earlier dreams of competing at the Olympics when she was at secondary school, and what led her to relearn Italian on top of completing a degree in management at Reading University. Clio, like many of the people I've spoken to on this podcast, didn't have a clear idea of the career she wanted when leaving uni. We explore her return to Genoa after graduating, what prompted the move back to the UK, how she found corporate life at a shipping company, and the events that would ultimately lead her to found the business she's running today. Clio is a mum to 2 young daughters, and as well as discussing how she goes about striking the right balance between life and work, we also cover the importance of being role models for our kids when it comes to how they think about work in the future. I also do my best impression of pretending to know anything about jewellery design. Enjoy that. Full disclosure, once we'd stopped recording, Clio told me that she didn't think her story was that interesting. Now, I tried to be impartial, but respectfully, I think she's mad. You can make your own mind up. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the person whose jewellery has rescued me from being giftless on countless occasions. Clio Sigismondi. Right, Clio, we're going to start with the opening question.
Yeah.
So if you've listened to a few of these already, you'll know it. So it won't come as a surprise. But when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, when I was at senior school, I wanted to be in the Olympics. That was my first, what I wanted to do. Okay. Failing that, a PE teacher. Okay. So in what capacity did you want to be in the Olympics? I'm assuming not a mascot. You wanted to compete. Although that would have been fun. No, I was good at athletics, and I was on the right path. And yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Okay. Then I went to university and then didn't train.
Right. So that's funny because I've got a similar story in that I was quite good at athletics when, I can't say it properly, but athletics when I was younger. And I always kind of said if I'd had a slightly more pushy parent, then I might have followed that route. But what made you drop out of it? I mean, it's a sad story. My coach got put in prison. That was the first thing. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I won't go into it, but it was... so that kind of... It was hard then to self-train, and my mum didn't drive, so I couldn't get to the South End athletics track. I was going to Canvey, Waterside. And then I just couldn't get to places, and I didn't have the right channels. Yeah, understood.
But, I mean, that was my initial... Always said I wanted to be in the Olympics. Yeah.
Wow. What was your event?
Heptathlon.
Wow. So a few events.
Yeah, it was good.
Wow. Okay.
Jack of all trades.
There you go.
Master of none.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. I think that you're the first person I've had on that wanted to be an athlete. So that's keeping it original.
I mean, that's the funny anecdote.
Brilliant. Okay. So I start with that question because sometimes it can add an interesting angle as to what you're doing now, which there isn't much of a parallel between what you've ended up doing. Ends. Where did you go to school? Did you grow up in Leigh? Yeah,
I went to King John.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you're born and bred in Leigh?
No, I was born in Italy, actually. Okay. I lived there until I was about 6, and then my father passed away. Right. Me, my sister, my mum came back to England because my mum's English. Right. My dad, Italian.
Okay. Yeah.
So I started infant school not speaking a word of English.
At 6 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was fun. So when people still remember me speaking pidgin English at school. So can you imagine?
Wow.
How stressful that was.
Yeah.
But so then from 6 years old, we Benfleet and then moved up to Lee.
Yeah, okay.
King John, yeah.
What was that like? Do you remember much of that, when sort of transitioning into an English-speaking school or leaving Italy? Yeah,
I remember the journey back, because we drove all the way back in my uncle's car.
Yeah.
I mean, we lived at my auntie's house for the first few months until we got a house. And that was, snippets of it. But all positive. I don't think I think of anything negative.
Yeah. I'm just interested. I'm trying to imagine my son, who's coming up to 6, like not speaking the language and going to a different country. And I think 6 is quite a forgiving age.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going into school with a backpack that in Italy all the kids had.
Right. Okay.
But in England,
it was standout.
It was weird. That was the only thing that I think people might have laughed at.
Taken aback.
But apart from that, I don't remember. It felt quite welcoming. Okay. I mean, I've got friends still that I went to infant school, so that's
wow. Okay.
Shows you.
There you go. So I'm kind of ignorant to your background, Clio. So I'm going to come at this from an angle of not knowing anything about you.
Okay,
so you might have to, for people that are listening to this, they may know you very well. So, but it's strange how it kind of uncovers little bits of information or facts that people go, oh my God, I've known Clio for so long, but I didn't know that. Do you still speak the language? Do you still speak Italian?
Yeah. It's funny because maybe this is the traumatic part of the move.
Okay.
When I first moved here, then I learned English. I then refused to talk Italian to my mum, who tried to keep it going.
Right.
So then I kind of forgot it. I forgot how to speak.
Yeah.
And then I got to about 17, 18 when I was choosing my courses for university, that I thought, it's a bit sad that it's half of me and I used to speak it. I should be bilingual. So I kind of went back to university and studied it as part of my business course. And then I had it in my mind that I wanted to go and live there for a bit. So I did an Erasmus course. So I went there for a year.
Right, okay.
Then went back when I finished uni.
Yeah.
And subsequently I married in Italian. So it's sort of very helpful.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So just going back to what the impetus was to come back to England or move to England, it was your dad passing when you were that age? Okay.
Because my mum's from this area.
Yeah, okay.
So he passed away and then, I think she just felt the education would be better and the system's better in England. So she moved back. And also her family were here. And
I was going to say, you've got that support network as well, haven't you?
So that was the initial, I suppose, when my mum was making the decision.
Yeah.
It would have been a very different upbringing, I think.
If you'd stayed in Italy.
Yeah, I think so. They do things differently.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you've got kind of a foot in both camps in terms of the culture, but it's nice that you, at a certain age, decided you kind of want to pay, I don't know if this is the right word, but you pay homage almost to where you've come from, because it's an incredible thing to have parents from both nationalities.
And it's a big thing in our lives now. So that Italian side never goes. It's very apparent in, I don't know, the way I do things. Maybe my arms are fling about like in Italian. I don't know. Like what we eat at home and where we go on holiday. We're always in Italy. So
I've been to Italy a few times. I think my main insight into the culture is I've got a couple of friends that lived there for about 3 years when they were doing a work placement, and they were in Rome, and I went out to see them for a New Year, and it was just such an eye-opener to see how New Year is done, or New Year's Eve is done in a different place.
Did you find it boring?
Well, I was with a lot of English people, so we still got pissed. Already. But it's, I think culturally it's just a very different event, isn't it? And that was why kind of...
The whole of Christmas actually is completely different.
Right, okay.
I felt...
Do you take any snippets of what an Italian Christmas looks like? No.
Maybe just...
you can pick and choose.
My husband chooses certain food elements.
Right, okay.
But apart from that, I keep Christmas as glitzy as possible. And they don't do glitzy. So I've had an Italian family and friends come over for Christmas, and they think it's so theatrical. They love it.
Right, yeah.
But when I've been there...
It's a bit more understated.
It's been awful, yeah.
Right,
I mean, they go to the cinema on Christmas Day.
Right, okay. That's a
Christmas
Boxing
Day
Day
is
thing.
not a thing. It's like, their thing is Christmas Eve, and it's very sit down and meal, like a massive meal, and there's not as many presents.
I get the impression, not to say that family's not a thing for Brits culturally, but family really underpins everything that they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my, again, outside looking in, that's what it feels like.
So that's a good positive of the Italian family. They will sort of stick together. You know, dinner times is very, everyone sits down. They have that culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's more, I wouldn't say it's more important. There's more of an emphasis, I suppose, in Italian culture.
Yeah, got you. Okay.
I think.
It's just really interesting. I'm as British as they come, to be fair. But it's interesting to hear what parts of your heritage that you take forward with you. And it's lovely to know that, 12 years down the line, I don't know how quickly you picked up the language at 6 years old, but I would imagine...
Well, I think I did it quite quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose I had to. I can't remember the point where I then started speaking.
Well, you're just immersed, aren't you? You were literally dropped
yeah.
into the middle of it, yeah.
Obviously understood it, because my mum used to speak to me in English when I was little, so I knew it. I just didn't speak it very well.
Yes. So how hard was it learning it again when you went to...
Well,
was it someone like flicked a switch?
I think I flicked a switch, because I've obviously had it in me.
Yeah.
I just maybe blocked it out. I don't know if you want to therapise that. I haven't therapised that, but maybe I just blocked it out, and I just needed to reopen the window and the door.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I make mistakes. I have a whole dictionary of Italian words that I've made my own.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is hilarious. But no, it was quite easy. Okay. I found living there easier.
Okay.
To learn a language, but everyone says that.
Yeah, got
just
you.
Being forced to speak, but yeah.
It's the immersion stuff, isn't it? Again,
yeah,
I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. One of my friend that moved to Rome, she had to speak Italian as part of her job, and she went for immersion training for a couple of months with an Italian family.
Immersion training, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I won't tell you too much about what she does, but she went through this immersion training, or what she labelled immersion training, and came back. I think she'd be the only person that said she wasn't fluent in Italian anyway.
Okay.
Everyone, if you watched her speak to Italians, you'd be like, oh my God. But being in amongst it and only being able to speak Italian is very different from being able to fall back on English when you need it. Again, outside looking in, it's not my experience of it. So you went to King John.
Yes.
Which is a link. I feel like it's a link. So we know a few people, which is what we like mutually, which is where we've come to be introduced, and you're speaking to me now. What was your experience at King John like at secondary school?
I mean, I like school.
Yeah. That's okay to say that. Yeah. You're not wrong to say it.
I like school. I made some really great friends. I got on with it. I did the work. I didn't struggle work-wise. I was sporty, so I got to do a lot of things through school.
Yeah.
So for my time was great.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I was a bit of a geek. I don't know. But
I think it depends. I don't feel like it's lent one, because I ask a lot of people that question. It's not lent one way or another. Some people have just a mixed bag of experiences at school, don't they? But it's fine to say you enjoyed it. I was fortunate enough that I had great friends. I found it all fairly interesting. I did okay. Yeah. And enjoyed myself. Did you? I don't know if the kind of jock clique existed in English schools, but did you feel like being sporty put you in like a different group, or did that not exist at King John?
Do you know what? I straddled a few groups, so I had friends from different groups. So maybe I didn't feel it. I think being sporty allowed me to meet different people. Yeah, and hence maybe why I had different friends in different groups. Yeah. And I suppose made you a little bit closer to the teachers, because you had that banter with the PE teachers.
Yeah, understood.
So you're a bit more known, but I don't know, maybe. Yeah. But I don't think it's as apparent as in America. Maybe it is now, I don't know.
I don't even know if it's as apparent in America. Maybe
from
it's
the
just...
outside would have said, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I'm thinking my experience, again, being at in the athletics team and the rugby team and basketball and all this stuff. Yeah. But I think I'm same as you. I would like to think, again, maybe this is just my view, and everyone else looking at me thought I was an arsehole. But I'd like to think that I was able even to label that there were different cliques. I mean, it's you go into any school. I don't know what it's like now, but there were like, and I'm using air quotes for anyone listening to this, but there were like the geeky.
I think it went along the lines of what music you listened to.
That's a really
I
good
think
point.
back in when I went to school, because I had people who listened to the rock music.
Yeah.
People who went clubbing.
Yeah.
You know, rather than the jocks or the people who are into chess, I don't know. Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying not to be offensive by saying geeky people, but I'm just taking myself back to school and thinking, there were the cliques that, and they aren't.
There were cliques, I think.
There were definitely.
I think there's
cliques.
always going to be a
But yeah, I
clique
think music being like the way to assess that or group people
that's
is
how
actually a really nice way to do it.
Yeah.
What music were you into, just as an aside?
Well, very much like the sport I played. I liked it all. I don't
Eclectic,
have. If you talk to my friends, I can't name the band.
Yeah.
Know who plays in it, but I know the song and I know I like it.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I listen to all sorts.
Eclectic stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you have.
Cool. So good experience by your own admission at school. You enjoyed it. You're sort of very sporty, academic, did well there.
Yeah, I did. All right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I did.
So what then was the motivation to go to uni? When did you start thinking? Because was it Reading that you went to?
I went to Reading. Yeah.
Right.
I just always wanted to. I think back in the day when we went to school, it was pushed higher education university style. You went there, then you've made it. And I don't think it's the same these days. And I'm glad it's not, because I think half of the people who actually went to university didn't need to.
Yes.
Nowadays.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But I quite liked the whole culture of it, idea of it. I wanted to learn more. So, like I say, I like school. So that, for me, I always wanted to go.
Yeah. Was there any sort of push from your family at all?
No, my mum's pretty chill. She sort of... No, she didn't push me.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, once I've got an idea in my head, I kind of tend to do it anyway. So she just ran with me doing it. But yeah, so I didn't have a pushy mum.
Right, okay.
She was very supportive of everything I did, but she let me make my own mistakes and let me make my own decisions, which was quite nice.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
So you went on to do, was it business management and Italian?
Yeah, so I kept it very broad.
Right.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do apart from being in the Olympics, and at that point I think it had faded.
Had that dream kind of died away a little bit at that point.
Because I was sporty, then I was probably advised PE teaching, and I was like, yeah, okay, I could do that, but it wasn't really something I really wanted to do. So I had an idea that I quite liked the business life, I suppose.
What was the inspiration there?
I don't know. I think you probably just, from senior school, you see others suited and booted, and I suppose I got that sense and I thought, okay, I quite like that idea.
Yeah.
But really, I didn't know. Yeah. I kept it broad. So I thought, if I do business management, I'm learning different areas of working business.
Yeah.
Adding on the Italian because I wanted to speak Italian again.
Yeah.
And I got an extra year in Italy, which sold it.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose that.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't really know, basically, when I was choosing it.
And did your experience at uni then, how was that? Did it become clearer to you why you'd picked it, or ways that you were potentially going to be able to utilise what you were learning when you went on to do what you did?
I don't know if it did or not. I mean, I suppose I formed foundations of how I'm running the business now.
Okay.
Or am I naturally okay at doing that? I don't know. It could be a bit of both.
Yeah.
Did it change my life? Not in an education sense, I don't think. I could have done that probably working somewhere. Yeah. But it was still fun. No.
It's an interesting point, and I like to bring it up for a couple of reasons, really. I've got, if you've heard this podcast, I've said this a lot, but I've got young kids. Like, you've got two daughters, haven't you?
I've got two, yeah.
And how old are they?
11 and 7. 7.
11 and 7.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess your 11-year-old is getting to the point now in secondary school or about to start secondary school.
Yeah, she's going in September, so yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder what work is going to look like for our kids, and also what guidance they're going to get.
Stresses me out, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, my oldest is 6, so he's got a long time until he has to think about that. But I wonder what that world is going to look like for them, and what inspiration they're going to see as they get older, and whether I'm going to be that person that goes, oh yeah, have you considered university?
Yeah.
I really believe in trying to give my kids that scope to decide themselves, and just make sure that you're there to support them whatever they decide. But I've also seen, and maybe I would have benefited from someone giving me a steer in a certain direction rather than just going, John, just do what you want to do, which is what I did. And I haven't.
But you've done all right for yourself.
I've done all right, but I feel like maybe a small steer in a certain direction, I might have benefited from that. But
yes, you've got to find the balance of being a pushy parent and a cool liberal parent.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
Don't know.
But it's, I think with 2 young kids and thinking about their future, I try and disseminate my experience and think about like career guidance or career advice. I speak about that a lot as well.
Yeah, I heard you speak about that before in a podcast. I can't really remember career. So I can't even recall what they told me to be, but probably it was PE teacher, and that's where I've got that memory from.
Yeah, got you.
I mean, they tried, but I don't think people really know. Hence why there's so many people changing up their career later on down the line, I suppose.
That's a really good point as well. At that age especially, you don't need to know what you want to do for the rest of your life.
And some people are very definite of what they want to do. Obviously, if you want to do something very academic, like being a lawyer, but you can actually study that later anyway. Yeah, doctor, but maybe traditional jobs like that, I suppose. But
I definitely. I don't know if I worry. I do worry about what my kids are going to do, and I worry about like I said, the inspiration, the guidance they'll get, not just from me, because I think as a parent I want to try and give them as much as I can, but the majority of the time they're at school. They'll be at school now till they're 18 years old. Like there's a lot of, they're going to pick up things through osmosis and
TikTok
learning.
stars. That's what they want to be, right?
Yes.
No, I think there's actually quite a lot of inspiration, just in different ways.
Yeah. Okay.
They're getting their inspiration from social media, or I mean, they're just the people around them are doing more things that we're moving away from traditional jobs. You know, talking about being a PA up in London, who was at Charlotte. Yeah, that was probably a lot of what people did if they didn't have an idea of what they were doing. But actually now people are thinking outside the box and what are their interests and turning that into a business. Yeah. But I think it is changing. Also, you've got technology. Throw that into the mix.
A big part of that is like AI that I've been discussing a lot in what I do for a living too, and how that's going to impact what jobs even look like as we move forward too. But it's all scary and amazing in equal measure, but it is shit scary.
They'll find a way.
Yeah, they will.
Either that or the human race will.
Well, exactly. It's going to go. It's going to go one way or the other, isn't it? For sure. So you left university.
Yeah.
Give me a kind of abridged version of your career when you left. So did you have you've done 4 years for you, because you had your year in Italy as well. You've done 4 years of study. Yeah. You've left with a degree, I'd assume. I don't know if you did.
I did. I did. Just no. I went straight to live in Italy because I had that in my mind, and I was like, no, I'm going to go.
Did you go solo? Were you with someone at the time?
No, I went on my own. Yep. I went back to the Genoa, where I'm from. So I've got family, I've got cousins there. And in Genoa, their main industry is shipping. Okay. And they're very suave. Like, you think of suit and booted going up to London. The Italians are that on speed. And
right, yeah. The style, I can imagine, is slightly different. Yeah.
So I had that, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to work in shipping. Don't know why. I just liked the idea of it. Yeah. Obviously style over substance, right? That's what I went there to do. And I did, well, first of all, I got a job working for a company that had the license for Lamborghini
Wow.
So that was quite interesting. And that took me to Hong Kong, to the trade shows. So I had sort of my first experience of trade shows. And that was fun. The boss was a tyrant. It was a very small company. So I think that set me up to knowing how to speak to an Italian boss who was just always an arsehole. And then from there, I got a job in a shipping company. I sent my CV to, it must have been about 300 different companies in the area, and just waited for one to come back, and one did, luckily. And it was, for a shipping company.
Okay. So how long were you out in Italy for?
I think about 2.5 years, 3 years, maybe.
You hadn't forgotten how to speak English by that point?
A little bit. I used to come back and
the other way.
Forget words. But yeah, so then after a certain point, I was trying to move into a flat with a friend, and it fell through. And I thought, oh my God, all my friends are actually earning a bit of money now, living on their own. Some are buying houses, and I'm still here living with my cousin, living paycheck to paycheck. It was a bit like that. And I thought, it's all lovely living here, but it's not what it's all cracked up to be. So I just left. I'd bought a car, so obviously that was probably half of the problem. Brand new one with no money, and I just drove it, packed all my belongings and drove back home from Italy.
Wow.
And then I had been talking with a friend who was also in shipping, a freight forwarder. Their counterpart in England said he's looking for someone who works with the Italian market, so you'd be perfect. So I got the job straight away. Again, still in shipping, freight forwarding on the other side. And I got a job here doing that.
Right. Where was that? Was that in London?
No, that was a very small company as well. That was in Bishop Stortford.
Okay.
So I was driving to Bishop Stortford every day. But that's where I met my husband. He was a customer. I'd have to organise his containers.
Okay.
That's what it was, basically.
That's romantic.
Yeah, I know, lovely, wasn't it? So I'd be speaking to him on the phone all the time, and it was just a bit flirty, I suppose.
Connected from there. So culturally then, did you notice a big difference having worked in Italy for 2.5 years and then coming back and working with UK? I mean, you were speaking to who would then be your husband, who was Italian anyway, so different stakeholders.
The thing is, from the Italian company to the English one, it was literally a whole big company to then working just me and my boss.
Right. Okay.
So my first step into the English working in England was very different in itself. But from there, I went to the headquarters of the company I was working for in Italy. So I'd got a job after a few years there. So when I worked for K-Line in London, that was back into a bit of a corporate environment. Okay. It's a bigger, more, I would say, office life was like. So that was fun. So
these are global or at least international organisations that you're working for anyway? Okay, right, got you, yeah. So you've got a mix of, because again, I've placed with Japanese companies, so culturally they're interesting anyway.
That was very interesting because they're a bit sexist. So there wasn't very many female managers, and you could only, what I could see, there was one that I knew that had got to a semi-managerial role. And maybe another one from another department, but that was it out of this whole big company. And they would bring in their Japanese counterparts to be the bigger bosses. Right. Yeah. So there was just no movement, and it was very boring work. Like, I didn't enjoy the work. Right. Okay. It was boring. I thought it would be more interesting negotiating rates, speaking to all the European companies offices, but it wasn't. It was boring as hell. And then I got pregnant, and that was my opportunity to never go back. To never go back.
And was that a conscious thing at the time? Did you know that when it came to having your first daughter, did you know, was it intentional that you weren't going to go back to work?
Well, I wasn't definite in either camp. Right. Okay. So they offered me a very non-flexible work-life balance. So I just thought to myself, people do it, and I actually think it's amazing what they do, because I wouldn't have been able to do it, to sort out the kids, drop them off, then get up to London, work a whole day and come back. And
it's incredible.
Yeah, you know, if you do it, that's wonderful. And I didn't love it enough to warrant it, and I was fortunate enough to not have to. Yeah. So that was very important, and I'm very grateful to have that set up.
I think it's important to highlight that as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be in a position to be able to do that, but if you can, and you can make that decision based on, why am I going to sacrifice either time being there with my daughter? Yeah,
you'd be paying someone to do it. So it is a job, obviously.
Yeah,
you talk to every parent who stays at home, but that was our decision that we made, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So that was 11 years ago. Yeah, give or take. Yeah. So in that time, obviously, when you're pregnant, I don't know if other women do this, but I was like, I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to start I'm going to learn to sew and all that jazz. And at the time, my sister was making these rings. Yeah.
Or she had been, and she was just doing it as a fun project. And I was like, oh, we can sell this. I'd bought a ring after living in Italy, which was very similar to what she had done, and I paid quite a bit of money for it. So I was like, well, sell it on Etsy. So my sister is the opposite to how I am in character. I'm a bit bolshy,
right?
Do it as soon as I thought it.
Yeah.
Whereas she's quieter, takes her time, bit manana. So I was like, I'll set it all up for you. I set it all up on Etsy. And she's like, yeah, but I can't make every single one the same. And I was like, that's the beauty of these rings that you're making. Anyway, so together we kind of did that, and I was pushing it. And then I was buying the rings off her to make her believe in herself a little bit.
Right. Did she know you were doing that? You didn't do that discreetly?
No,
you did it. I didn't know if you did it undercover or whatever.
No, because I believed in what she was making. So, yeah, that went on for a bit. And then that was slightly before, actually, I was pregnant. And then, whilst I was on maternity leave, I said, oh, well, now I've got the time. Why don't we think about doing it a little bit more seriously? I'll come on and we'll start making, other things, not just rings. We'll make it a little business. So then that's kind of the startings of Black and Sigi.
Nice. Thank you for pronouncing it as well, because I've asked a million people on how to pronounce it.
Everyone
Black
says
and
Sigi, but it's a soft G. Yeah, I've had that the whole of my life.
So your surname is Sigismondi. Sigismondi. Yeah. Okay, right. Because that was the other question I was going to ask. Because I'm going to have to say that in intro at some point. But okay, thank you for clarifying that. No so your sister was making the rings to start off with, just as it wasn't. Because I was wondering, I've got written on my notes like side hustle, but it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like just a creative outlet. Hustle.
She went to art college in Southend, and she'd done a project, and there was some scrap wire. So literally, it was nothing to do with the project. She just had created it from these scraps,
right? Yeah.
That she collected. So yeah, it was for herself.
Yeah,
it was something pretty that she'd made.
Yeah.
And that's how literally she started. It wasn't any formal training.
Yeah.
It just was born out of her.
That's brilliant. So do you think without your input, or without your persuasion, let's say, to start growing that, or at least your time, it sounds like a timing thing as well, your time freeing up enough to start going, well, look, let's start building this into something. Would it have happened, do you think? Or in the way that it has?
Well, maybe, might have happened. With maybe... I think it's worked because we've come together.
Right,
with the strengths that we both had. So maybe individually it wouldn't have started as quickly, or maybe would never have started. Maybe she would never have had time on her own, or the confidence maybe. But maybe she would have. I don't know. I don't want to say she wouldn't have, but I think it's worked. It's become what it has because of both of our inputs maybe. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. It's just interesting because... Again, take an example of someone like my brother, who's an artist. I don't know if you've listened to his episode, but he's very successful, but not. I mean, he's commercially as an artist, and it tends to be once you're dead, usually you make a lot of money. But he's doing all right. So he's making a living and has been doing it for a good amount of time now, as my mum has as well. But I wouldn't necessarily, and it's no offence, Luke, if you're listening to this, but it's not. I wouldn't say he's the most commercially savvy person.
Right.
And I do think if you're going to you can make the most beautiful jewellery in this case, or draw the most beautiful drawings, but there needs to be an element of that business acumen coming in if you're going to scale it, and that's where it seems like that it came together at the right time.
Yeah, and I think that's why it worked so well. I remember my mum going to a clairvoyant years ago, like 25 years ago, and she'd said, very clearly at one point, they will work together. I suppose I had that story in my head as well, and I quite like that. And maybe I made it happen because of that, but I don't think it did. I think it naturally came together, and
Yeah, there's an element of, I don't know if you believe in the word fate, but it seems like there's an element of fate that kind of led you to that point
time.
as well. And it's really nice. But what's the age gap between you both?
6 years.
6 years. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's just nice doing a joint venture with your sibling as well.
It was fun, yeah. And also you can be really candid with your sister or your sibling, can't you? Whereas with another colleague, if you were sharing a business, it got to tread a bit lighter. It can be a bit more black and white, and you still know you're going to talk.
I agree with that. I definitely think with the dynamic I've got with my brother, we're only 18 months apart.
Yeah.
But we're like best mates. Like we're very, very fortunate. I'd argue some people would hear that and think there's no way that I could be super honest, with my sibling.
It depends on the relationship. But I found that with our relationship, she'll get annoyed with me all the time.
Yeah.
But I can also tell her to shut up, and we might not talk to each other for 5 minutes and be in a huff, and then...
Yeah. But it's family.
Yeah,
your blood.
Exactly. So it was good. Yeah, so we did that on the kitchen table every Monday. I remember because I had the baby then after we'd sort of developed, and we spoke about it for ages. And my mum would look after my firstborn, and then I'd say, right, on Monday morning, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to come round to yours. And it was just be on the kitchen table. And then it just grew from there. And then it sort of became Monday and Wednesday. Then they went to play school. And we had like a space in the back garden that we turned that into the office. Wow. A studio, not office.
Well, do you know what? Yeah, my brother kills me when I used to call his studio an office, and he absolutely hated
studio.
it. It's an art space, it's a creative space.
Yeah, that's it. So that's how it started growing. Yeah, from the early stages of Black and Sigi. Okay.
Are you a creative person? I would say very much now, obviously.
Yeah, no.
Historically.
I think I was. I just hadn't tapped into my creative side earlier on because I was more going down the corporate way in my mind. I don't know. I think I am. Yeah. I hope I am.
Yeah, well, I'd definitely say the proof is in the pudding with now what you're doing.
I think I've got more creative the older I've got.
Right.
But maybe that's because I've opened it up a bit more. And
what do you put that down to? Just developing it and giving it time to breathe, like actually the creation of jewellery.
Yeah, and having the time to get your style going. I think people don't develop that until later. Yeah. Maybe.
I spoke to someone in the first season, and she was saying that she doesn't believe that there's kind of like you either are or aren't creative. Like a big part of it is the process. Like whatever you take from the creation of something, labeling someone as creative or not is not the best way to do it. I mean, I still fall into that trap because I've just done it, but I think there is some truth in that. The more you create, the more you can explore.
Absolutely.
And it's all subjective, isn't it, as well? Like some people's styles have completely different...
understand when you everyone's creative in their own way. I remember someone saying to me, I had thought I wanted to be an interior designer, but I think every person wants to be an interior designer at some point. But so obviously that was me tapping into some creativity at university.
Right.
And I had a good friend from school who... became like it was an art, more the creative type.
Right. Okay.
They turned around and I was like, "Oh, you'll never be it's just not your vibe."
Oh,
and I thought, "Oh, such an arsehole."
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. But I love them. Like I still talk to them today. But the point was they'd done what you had said.
They pigeonholed you as not creative
because for whatever reason they thought not. But actually, my business is more creative than yours now, so fuck you.
There you go. Okay. I like that. Yeah, I do think the whole label thing could be quite prohibitive, because if you're labelled as not creative, you can just start to think of yourself that way. I've done it. Like I'm in a family of two incredibly successful artists, and I work in recruitment, and I go, I'm not a creative person. But yeah, exactly. I've gone against the kind of grain with this creative career that we're a very small family anyway, but like the two people in my life followed that and have been really successful. But there are elements of what I do that allow that creativity to come out.
This is creative, what you're doing.
Yeah, I think so. But
because you don't put pen to paper doesn't mean it's not creative.
Well, this is it, yeah.
You're Lego building.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. if only we could see the Lego. But yeah, I've come to terms now with the fact that I enjoy the creative process.
Yeah.
So maybe we're all creative. Let's just broad brush say everyone's creative. It's just whether you invest a bit of time in doing that.
And you can have different strengths. You can be creative in your strategies.
Yes, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm most creative, like in the ideas. I've got a million ideas.
Yeah.
And that's my forte.
I'm going to talk to you about a couple of those and how they've evolved and what you see for Black and Sigi moving forward too. But I think you're right, and I think actually that'd be nice for people to hear, because I do think there's a lot of I do a lot of employee value proposition work, which might not mean anything to anyone listening at this point, but basically how the companies create cultures where people feel like they're doing meaningful work is one element of that.
Yeah.
And creativity, being able to create something.
Yeah.
Which again, your mind might go to, creating something artistic, but actually being creative in the way you're thinking, or the way you're managing something, or the way you're carrying a piece of work out that's creative.
And so something is sometimes even more important than as important as the end product that you're creating. Maybe if it is a product that you're creating, without that, you would never have got. The end anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay. So it started to grow, kitchen table, moved into the studio space, not the office space, space.
Garden shed.
Yeah. I started working in a garden shed a long time ago. So when did you decide, was there a kind of light bulb moment when you thought, fucking hell, we can make this into like a venture?
I remember when we had first got together, and me and my sister, and we're saying, we're going to do it. And we were fortunate enough to have a personal loan from family members, so we didn't have to go to a bank. So we're like, we got this. Let's get a website and get it all set up. And because I was already starting to be creative in my thinking, I was thinking marketing. So I was like, right, we can approach all the boutiques. This was right at the beginning. We'd created a little collection. I was like, let's borrow their clothes. We'd do a photo shoot and, get some images. And we went into a shop that's actually no longer there, but it was really high end. It was lush. And said, can we borrow some clothes? We'll tag you in, that kind of discussion. And I hadn't even thought about wholesale at that point. And she said, why? I'd like to stock some of your pieces. And that's when I was like, and that is the moment where I thought, wow, if this kind of shop likes what we're making, it's not just an artisan handmade piece, which some people might have seen it as. There was a fashion-y person thinking it was quite cool.
Right. Okay.
So that was my moment when we came out and we're like, right, okay, we're going to have to really research all the sort of pricing elements of it, and that's when I thought, okay,
this could be something.
Could be cool, yeah.
Is it all still, again, ignorance from this? So I don't know. I'm just going to ask stupid questions.
No, go for it.
Is it all still handmade by you?
Yeah. So that was one of our main focuses. We have grown quite a lot, and we could send it out to India, like there have been other companies, and to make it cheaper. But that would take away from actually what we are as our USP, which is handmade in England.
Yes.
And in limited amounts. Yep. So we can only reach to a certain point. So I don't expect Black and Sigi to be a multi-million-pound company.
Right.
The main focus is the community and what we have created. So, if I can employ 3 people, that's already giving them a job. If I can pay myself, great. And then if we're still selling it, and we will only be able to make to a certain point in the space that we have.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as we're still having fun, making some money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of the focus on our company. So we could have sent it out, but then it wouldn't be
what it is.
Yeah.
So you got so it's the company was formed. I sound like I know this, but I only know through
Maybe
LinkedIn.
I don't even know it.
Through LinkedIn. But the company was 2014.
Yeah.
So you're 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
From having those conversations going into shops, was there a part of you that, with your business head on, I love the fact that the USP is what it is.
Yeah.
But is there ever part of you that had to kind of just remind yourself that, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, how did you define like what enough looks like? It's a question I've asked a few people, because you can get to the point, because there are big jewellery brands that have gone into that, you know, they are multi-million pound companies, obviously, and then some. Did you ever get excited to think that we could grow it and then have to remind yourself, no, we need to keep this what it is?
No, I've always said to myself, after then doing trade shows, I got an idea of the target shops that we were going for. Right. So John Lewis would be too much. They wouldn't go for our product anyway. It is too artisan, and that would be too much for us to produce at the expectations that they want. But, you know, I've said to myself, no, I want to be stocked in the big museums, the V&A, those kind of London museums, and then we can take it international once we've hit those main ones in London, or maybe not, maybe that's enough. And we got there.
Wow.
So,
and was it enough?
I mean, I'm still there, and it is enough. Like we sometimes we can't make as quickly as they need it. So we're there. Yeah. And the next stage, I don't know. Then I'd have to get bigger space, take over Leon C. Everyone get making wire wrap jewellery.
But this is it, because if the demand is there, it gets to. And again, I'm asking from my own. It's completely self-serving why I'm asking this question, because you get to a point where you're growing, and I always set up the business as a lifestyle business, and my recruitment agency was a lifestyle business, and I was only ever going to grow to a point that I could service the amount of clients I could do comfortably while still being present as a dad, as a partner, all these things. And then you get to the point where you have to start saying no or turning work away. And it's a real alien concept, especially when you've gone through that growth phase to get to a point where you can pay the bills. Yeah. And then you're at a point where you have to say no. And I just wonder, because I'm at that precipice now. I've just made my first hire, which I promised I would never ever do. So, and then now people are starting to say, well, you started one, like, why don't you hire someone else? Because I need to keep reminding myself why I started out in the first place. I guess that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, I haven't had to say no yet.
Okay.
I suppose I've got more specific in when people ask me to make something bespoke, because some people want Tiffany's and we don't do that. So I've learned to say no there. But in terms of the bigger accounts, I haven't said no yet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It just sounds like you're managing it better. To be fair, maybe I should.
When we got enough, the bigger accounts, and it was getting to that point where we couldn't fulfill the orders, I stopped going to the trade shows. So I sort of took my foot off the
You got to kind of turn the tap off at some point, haven't you? Because going there is keeping that flow coming
going,
in.
And I wouldn't have been able to have new stockists on board at the rate the trade shows would bring them in. Yeah. So now, we've got those. That's eventually going to end, because as it always does, the life, maybe it isn't, I don't know. If I could have them forever and then have choice smaller boutiques, then in terms of the wholesale side, then I'd be covered for life. Like that would be perfect. Yeah. But we're lucky because, and I think maybe that comes from me studying business as well. We had a very good mix right from the start with wholesale and direct customer bases. So we have the best of both worlds. So where maybe one falls short, we have the direct sales.
Yeah, understood. Okay, yeah. So it's important to have both of those kind of pillars there.
No, we've got
if one falls over, the other one is propping it up.
During
while maybe
COVID, where there was no stockists buying in, we had a loyal customer base that was still buying jewellery, believe it or not, even when they were staying in on a Friday night.
Well, everyone had a bit more money to spend on jewellery,
I think that's what happened. But so I haven't had to say no. We'll circle back to that question. Yeah. Luckily. But we're there now, so I just sort of take my foot off, because I am still managing with kids. So I've grown the business alongside that. Yeah.
And that sounds like that growth happened, as you said, like you were having those conversations maybe slightly before falling pregnant. Yeah. But then really starting to invest more time because of I'm not going to say the time that you had, because as a parent you very rarely have time, but prioritising Black and Sigi and what you were doing at the same time as
I mean, I was working every single night till midnight when they were newborn, so on the computer, which that was probably a bit too much, but
Did it feel like it at the time, or is that just in retrospect?
No, because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to get it done.
It's not someone cracking the whip, it's your own drive.
No, it's my own motivation to do it. Yeah, so that was, I was working it around.
Because one of the questions asked for parents usually is like how becoming a parent changes your relationship with work, because it changed, like part of the reason I'm doing this podcast is because it completely changed my relationship with work. But it seemed like that, horrible cliche, but it seems like that new chapter for you professionally happened around the same time that your first baby came along too.
I had the space to be able to do it. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I
wouldn't say my jobs before Black and Sigi were career because I didn't feel like it was taking me anywhere. Okay. I was working for just to pay my rent.
Yeah, understood. Okay.
I think.
So going into...
I didn't have any passion in shipping. No.
Okay, yeah.
Apart from that initial seeing an Italian looking good.
There you go, yeah, wanting to go down that route. But look, I think at that age that you were making those decisions, well, that... Like,
very fickle.
Oh, I was going to say fickle. You can be... I started in personal training at 18 because I was like superficial, like going to the gym, and I just thought, I can make some money doing that. Yeah. Like I didn't really think of it as a career. I never thought I'd be doing it for 7 years, which I was, and you just fall into jobs, don't you?
Yes.
And I do, going back to the kind of career guidance thing, I feel like back then there was an expectation, whether it manifested itself or not, but an expectation to know what you wanted to do for the rest of your life at 18 years old.
And it's not true. Not everyone knows.
Yeah.
Majority of people don't know.
I would say that's a fair comment. Yeah. And it's definitely the minority that will go into like college, let's say. My brother being one of them, and I keep referencing him, but he's always sticks out in my mind as the person that just had it down what he wanted to do very early on.
Well, that's wonderful.
Great for him. I just don't think it's not commonplace for that to happen. No,
I don't think so either. I agree.
So you're 10 years on with the business. Your sister Athena that you started it with.
I've got to it's Athena because she's going to...
Oh God, I'm so sorry. Athena.
Remember you said it right, but the Italians say Athena rather than Athena. Yeah.
And then that's how she pronounces it, obviously.
We call her Teeny.
Okay, Teeny. I don't know if I can say it. Teeny, I apologise for getting your name wrong. But so you were doing it with Athena.
Yeah.
Now I'm completely thrown. She's no longer involved, sort of hands-on in the crew.
No, but she's always dipping in and out. Like she'll come on the fun trips,
the social events,
basically. So she's still the honorary member. No, she stepped away. I can't remember now. About 5 years ago, I suppose.
How did that come about, if you don't mind me asking? And how was that kind of... Yeah, what was the... when I say fallout, I don't mean in a negative way.
Yeah, we didn't have an argument about it. She was having to work full-time as well, and she works in hospitality. So already they're quite long hours. So on her days off, she would be doing Black and Sigi. And I think at one point it all got too much.
Right.
And we weren't at a point where we could match her wage that she was getting. So she had to make the decision on that side. And I think after a while she sort of lost a bit of love for it.
Okay.
Whereas she could see that I was really enthusiastic about it. She hadn't the same enthusiasm. So she kind of just said... Yeah,
your graphs were going like... You're going upwards trajectory. And then
she said at one point I was so obsessed with it, that's all I would talk to her about it. So... Obviously, that's my bad. But, so she stepped away. But it wasn't for any hard feelings.
Yeah, so when I say fallout, I didn't mean... And I don't want to insinuate you had an argument. I mean, like, the fallout of, what was the aftermath of her stepping away. But it sounds like, in her mind, and I don't want to speak for you, Teeny, but it sounds like she'd come to that conclusion that maybe that was...
I think it was like a natural thing as well, where she was working more. She got promoted as well at that point. She couldn't put the same hours in.
Yeah.
So I was taking more on. So it was a lot of it had transferred over anyway.
Yeah. To me. That transition had started to happen organically, and
I think that's that's how it happened. And she sort of just said, I can't work every single day.
Yeah. Hospitality's bloody brutal as well, isn't it? Is she still working? She's still in it.
She's got the top of her game, so that's good. Okay. So she's got a little bit more flexibility on her work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I've said to her, well, now you've got more time, you can come and work.
Yeah.
No,
Is there no chance of that happening just yet?
She helps every now and again. At the times where we have been going back, had so many orders that we couldn't fulfill.
Right.
I have chucked things her way and said, I need help on that. But I have a team as well who are very good. So
with the creative stuff, then I'm just thinking that the Genesis was a Tainer, and then you're moving forward. And now you've taken the baton and moving forward with that creativity too. It's just an interesting dynamic shift. I think it's I think it's great, and I think maybe if you'd asked yourself when you were going in shipping, is this where you'd find yourself down the line?
No,
I think it's brilliant.
This sort of came out of nowhere. It was like it's an organic development from that one ring she'd made.
Yeah.
And that's where my cogs went wild.
And not having ever seen like one of the original earlier pieces,
they're shit. They're so shit. We've got a couple knocking around, and
really,
even now when I see people wearing older items, I look at them and go, oh. And often if I know you, I will say, let me redo that one for you.
Really? Well, I guess again, it's not my judgment. I'm just trying to sort of put myself in your position. If you've got every single item that someone's wearing, they're saying, oh, this is where I got it from. Yeah. It's a bit of advertising, isn't it, for you, a bit of marketing, and you kind of want it to reflect you in the best way. But there must also be a part of you that's proud of like those earlier iterations.
Oh, absolutely. When I say they're shit, then they're not. They're wonderful and very creative designs. But where we've developed in how we make things, we've learnt new techniques, we've got better equipment, better materials. That's what I mean by
you iterate and innovate over the years, don't you?
Yeah, become more innovative in the studio. But
no, it's just I think we've made the point. It was just that kind of switching of your sister starting as the catalyst behind it, and then you taking it on.
She is in the story. She is embedded in the story of Black and Sigi.
So that's a really lovely thing as well, isn't it? Because I feel like that connection to where you started from, again, it's part of your USP, isn't it? It's where you're leaning to. Where did the name come from? I get the Sigi bit.
So they used to call my dad Sigi as a nickname because of his surname, and he had a very long first name as well.
Right.
So that was his nickname, and my mum's surname was Black.
Oh wow!
So it was like, the daughters of Black and Sigi.
I like that. I think that's lovely. Looking back at then the last decade, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had running the business? Can you think, have you been very fortunate in 10 years and not had any? Or what are the biggest ones?
There's different from different areas. Like you've got the boring side, which is like cash flow. Sometimes we struggle with that, but I've had to put a lot of my own personal money in but that's the boring stuff. But I think that happens in every small business.
But it's important to say, to highlight, because if anyone's sat there thinking, and I think some people have this very kind of glorified, sexy view of what it's like to run your own business, cash flow is a bitch. Like it's a horrible mistress that you've got to try
so
and
I've had to
keep
cover
going.
that a lot. But I'm getting it back now, which is quite nice. At one point, our wire supplier turned round to me. We'd just come back off from the trade show, so I was putting in a wire order, and he said, "Oh, we're stopping all the gold wire." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, I need this amount now." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I've only got this size," because we use different sizes. So there was a moment where I thought, "Shit, I'm going to have to go back to 17 new stockists and say, sorry, can't make anything, or can only make a certain amount." So that was stressful, but I eventually found an alternative, found a new supplier, which actually becomes more expensive and time consuming, especially when you're on a time of, you need to make certain amounts for the shops. But so that was quite tough. But I find that happens regularly, once a year, something like that. So you just have to deal with it.
Does the impact of those parts of the supply chain and how you react to that, if you know it's happened once, you just learn, don't you? It's still a pain in the arse.
And do you know what? Worst case scenario, I said, well, if I only offer silver for a bit until you just got to be chill about it.
Yeah, that's part of the story, isn't it, as well, of like, and what I love, if you can lean on that in an authentic way and be transparent about it, well, it builds into that background of you make everything yourself, you make everything in the UK. Not everything's going to run perfectly all the time.
Exactly. And
but still pressure.
Yeah, well, I am stressed. We always say, like, my mind, it's like popcorn, like it's popping off every Monday morning. I will be saying 10 different things in the space of 10 minutes. So if you work in the studio, you have to sort of get my vibe, because I will be talking about something and then in the same sentence be
I can empathise with that completely.
But I mean, those are the kind of levels I can't think of. I've been quite fortunate.
Okay.
I mean, having to just learn it. But again, once I put my mind to things, I will just research it and I'm quite relaxed, I feel, maybe. Yeah.
And that might be one of the...
My sister won't say that. She'll be listening to this and go, no, you're fucking not.
We'll have to have her on next as well. But no, it's that feeling relaxed, or maybe that ability to be calm under pressure, as in maybe not get as stressed as others. It's probably one of the contributors.
I always think there's a solution. There's always a solution to something. You don't. Again, it probably comes to ability to say no. Like the solution could be that you just don't offer it. Whereas once upon a time, I would have been bending backwards because it wasn't available. But actually now I just think, well, if I can't offer it, I can't offer it. Offer something else. I
think you get more comfortable with that as you get older as well. Just being able to push back and say no to things. I remember earlier on in my career, I was just a people pleaser. I said yes to everyone, to everything, to the detriment of me or my well-being. I was just trying to get everything done in a work capacity. And then you realise, actually, I'm doing not just myself a disservice, but the people I'm trying to do the work for as well. Like, you have to say no at some point.
Definitely.
It's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, when we were setting it up as well, I was working a lot to set up the website, manage social media, and then everything else, newsletters, making the actual product, thinking of new designs. That, I suppose, was quite stressful, but I feel like that's just part of having your own business.
The journey, it's an awful cliche again. One of the things I was going to ask you about, actually, is like your newsletters, and you've just started your magazine as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
These are all things that you don't have to do.
No, and that's what I tell myself every single day.
Yeah.
Do you know what? If you'd asked me now, if I was going back to school, I'd probably say I want to be in marketing.
Right,
in a creative strategy kind of marketing job.
Yeah, okay.
Because I do really enjoy the marketing side of the company. I love thinking of up of an idea of a collaboration, then putting it all together.
Yeah.
And then
do you think that's your forte in business as well? Do you think that's kind of what you're... I think
that's where I've been able to take the business elsewhere. Because I will think of an idea and implement it immediately without worrying about the consequences. Because I just think, if it don't go right, just quietly exit the room kind of thing. And I think with that, it has helped showcase my pieces more. Otherwise they would have, I suppose. Because
it is a really different way of doing things. And I guess bigger brands will do, I don't subscribe to your newsletter, and I'm sorry about that. But
sign up now,
I will
please.
I will do on the back of this. But I think bigger brands, it's very commonplace to have newsletters. Yeah. I think it's a real differentiator to start this magazine that you've launched too, which I think is a brilliant idea. But tell me,
I did a poll though, and it was like 50-50 split as to whether you read it or not out of the customers I asked.
Right.
And that was deflating.
Was it?
Yeah.
Has it stopped you wanting to do another one?
For 5 minutes I was contemplating it, and then I thought, actually I quite like it, and I'm doing the content anyway. I don't know.
I think consistency helps with anything like that, and it'll be getting...
I've only done 2, so...
Yeah. I personally like the fact that you've channelled your marketing down that route too. It's kind of got the lifestyle twist on it. That was the
idea, and I've always wanted to do it. Years ago, I remember talking to a friend who used to help me with my newsletters. I used to go running with her, and we used to always have these running business chats. And I'd be like, that's what I really want to do. And I was like, but I can't afford it. It's too much money.
Yeah.
But I've found a way of implementing it without it costing too much. It still costs me money, but I feel like that will come back eventually.
It's the balance, isn't it? I mean, this podcast is just a passion project. Like, it's related to what I do for a living, and hopefully there's a bit of residual kind of positivity around the brand of my recruitment agency because of it. But it costs money. Like, it's an investment of time, energy, but money. And I think if I measured it in the amount of people that listen to the podcast, and there's more people listening than I ever thought there would be, actually. Good. But if I just need to measure it in, do I enjoy it? Am I getting something from it? Is it ticking that creative box for me as well? And it's yes to all of those.
Exactly. So. And I think I do the same with these kind of projects. Yeah. I'm hoping it will bring in some extra. Of
course, orders, I mean, if I could get paid for just chatting shit on a microphone for an hour and a half, I'd love to do. I'd love to do that. But yeah, it's my advice would be just keep going.
No, I've really got the winter and the autumn. So
brilliant.
Won't knock me off my perch yet.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. Let's do the flip side. I've asked you about the biggest challenges. What's one of the things you're most proud of that the business has achieved, or you've achieved with the business?
I think there's a number of things. Obviously, the status of being stocked in, the big museums in London, that's really was one of the targets in terms of a monetary, I suppose, target, or where I want to be. Yeah. I quite like the idea of what the community we've created, like the people we've employed. Like, I've got a team. I never would have thought that I'd be running that kind of business, that I have to employ people. Do you know what I mean? So that was a big part of feeling proud of the company. And I remember actually going out for dinner one time, and I was wearing some of our bangles, and I was like, oh, Black and Sigi. And I was like, oh, God. So that moment, I was like, I feel famous just from this random one person who,
That's brilliant.
That was quite an achievement. But there's different levels of how proud I feel from the achievements we've made, because all of it is a massive achievement. And
again, the process is an achievement, isn't it? Like, you don't have to go to an end goal to then be proud of it. You can just be proud of the day to day, the lifestyle you've got, the relationship with work you've got, the for me, what my job allows me to do is be present with my kids and
obviously that was a big thing that I didn't mention. I'm able to look after my children at the same time. So,
and that's a really lovely thing. Have you got any thoughts on how you keep the balance right? Do you feel like you get the balance right between being a parent, wanting to do...
I mean, it dips in every now and again, and I have to check in.
Yeah, parent guilt is... I'm not trying to bring any feelings of that up at all, but I think it's just a natural juggling thing.
Sort of saying, hang on, I'm just finishing this off. But I've found now that But that comes with having more cash flows to be able to delegate jobs out, so I don't have to do them. Yeah. But I just, again, that is where we are at now. Yeah. But I think it's good for them to see that you're working. They come and work with me in the studio as well. So there's good and bad points. I'm still there to go to the assembly and pick them up. Yeah. If I'm not present for a little bit.
There's a sacrifice in whatever you do, isn't there? You've got to sacrifice time in either endeavour. It's sacrificing time in the business or sacrificing time being with your kids.
Yeah, I have got better at it, and it's more... So there's more of a schedule now. So that's good. No, that's great. That comes with it all being ironed out, I think.
Yeah. And I was speaking to Charlotte de Bonsayer about her view of it. And I think she's, a big advocate for wanting to be a great role model for her daughters about, being a working mum and doing it. And as we were saying earlier, like being this representation or being this inspiration for them to see, you can run your own thing. Like you can work in a way and build your own enterprise and do what you want to do.
I think it's you are their greatest inspiration at the end of the day.
Yeah, which is worry in my case. But it's I think the other thing I spoke to Charlotte about was this kind of stigma that you can be labelled with sometimes if you are a parent that, I said it in her episode. I love my children. Yeah. There's the narrative from a lot of parents is my children came along and I started doing everything for them. Everything was about them.
Oh no! I mean, I didn't do this for them. I did this for me once I had them.
Yeah, and that's really I think going to be heartening to hear for a lot of people. Yeah. That maybe. Because I still sit at dinner with friends today and they everything for my kids, and I don't judge that. It's just that I still have this kind of self-serving part of my nature that I want to do things intrinsically because I want to achieve them.
And I think that's important. I mean, they are a great life
It's hard to put into words, isn't it? It is hard to
It's
describe.
wonderful having them in your life, but also you still want to be able to have your thing.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's okay to say.
But
also, I've got my own business, so I can go to their assemblies and pick them up. So
yeah,
they go together.
Yeah.
But did I start Black and Sigi for them? No, that came after. After I didn't make a decision. Oh, I'm going to do this because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
I was pregnant. I didn't go back to it. Then Black and Sigi evolved. So,
like you say, I think that's really important to say because there's enough guilt in being a parent half the time with balancing all the things that we need to do, our own things we want to achieve, and the well-being of our kids and their aspirations and everything too.
I mean, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah,
I'm overwhelmed every day.
I am as well.
From the moment I wake up.
Oh my word! Yeah, I can imagine. One of the running themes, we are nearly at the end of this, Claire. One of the running themes, and something I was really interested to read in the form I asked you to fill out. So one of the running themes in this season is talking to creatives, entrepreneurs, business owners in Leigh-on-Sea, in and around Leigh-on-Sea. And I've been asking people what their view is on this every episode so far. About why the concentration around here is as high as it is.
Yeah.
I get the feeling from what you put in your form that you agree that there is a high concentration of people that fall under those labels. I know we shouldn't be labelling anyone, but creatives, entrepreneurs and business owners.
Entrepreneurs, I think it's a lovely thing to be labelled as.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
I've got mixed feelings about that because some people have called me that, and I don't think I necessarily fall into that bracket because for my own reasons. But I don't have a problem with the label if it's kind of like if I feel like the definition is right.
It suits me.
Exactly. But can you put a reason as to why the concentration is so high? Charlotte, I think. I don't know if you listened to her episode, but Charlotte labelled it really well.
I can't remember what she said.
So she said it was collaboration, like one of the reasons why.
It's the community, I think, is the main aspect. Everyone supports each other, and it is major, the collaborations that goes on. And that investment goes back into those small businesses, and then they grow and grow and grow. And hence why we are with a community of millions of entrepreneurs. There's something popping up every week, which is wonderful to see.
Yeah.
I know someone who does something that I need locally.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible.
And it's a big, again, going back to your form, I think that's a big impetus for you and the growth of the business and the future of the business is collaborating with these local, smaller, whether they're local or not, as you said.
We've built our business on collaboration. That is part of our strategy because, like I say, I'm not trying to make it into £1 million business. I want to just offer people jobs and also create something that people will like, and so I can pay myself. But also, I love doing the collaborations because I love working with other people. So I'm always implementing that into my strategy.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, one prime example that's coming to mind now is that you've done work with Bex Hyde, who seems to be. We were talking in the gym the other day about this. Who seems to be like one of the links between nearly every guest that I've had on, whether I've known it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bex and Amy, as part of what they're doing, their new venture are airing as we record this. They're actually airing tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's just one example. And you've got Andy at Cult that's collaborated.
I've collaborated with Andy because I had I've done a workshops at Cult.
At Cult as well. Yeah. So I think they're just examples that are popping into my head and. There are more businesses in Leigh than I've showcased on this on this podcast, but I've only got a certain amount of time.
I've worked with Charlotte as well.
Really?
I did her wedding jewellery.
Oh, amazing! That's how I met Charlotte. I didn't know that. Yeah. So there's all these little connections that are made, and I love it. Like there are parts like any town that you live in. There are parts that are less desirable, but I think when we're looking at business, world of work, how people come in and build their own thing, and all the independence we've got, I'm biased because I live in this neck of the woods, but it just feels like an amazing thing. I think
we're blessed with many things, like you say, the collaboration, and also geographically we are so close to London, so people are moving in who are probably adding to the skill set of what they're offering. But I don't know, I think it's a wonderful entrepreneurial town.
Yeah.
And there's not many places that do this. And I think half of the reason why we're all surviving is because everyone supports everyone.
I'm starting to see that a lot more. And again, I don't run a bricks and mortar place. I know you've got your studio, but I don't run a bricks and mortar business in the heart of Leigh-on-Sea. But the more and more people I'm speaking to, you just start to realise that feeling of community between shop owners, businesses, everyone, referrals, all these things are just kind of, it's a really lovely, heartening thing. It is wonderful. To hear.
And it expands out to the surrounding areas as well. It's not, but it starts in Leigh, doesn't it, in terms of...
It seems to be the heart of it. I do think it is, but I'm biased again because I'm speaking to people from Leigh. But that was why I wanted to do this and have this running theme, is because I've seen it in the... I grew up in Rayleigh, so I've never been a million miles away.
Rayleigh's quite another small little hub of small businesses, I think.
It is, I grew up there, so I've got a kind of love-hate relationship with Rayleigh, primarily because how long it takes to get to the bloody place.
I'm one of those wankers that don't leave my bubble.
Right, okay,
Bay's too far for me. And Benfleet, don't talk about Benfleet.
What else would you possibly need?
That's exactly why.
But I think... Yeah, I've definitely got some mixed feelings about Rayleigh, but that's just growing up there. I'm too close to it. Right, Clio. Yeah. I have a closing tradition on the podcast. Yeah. If you've listened to them, you'll know roughly what it is. So, Mum has, as she always does, she's left a question for you. I'm going to play it down the mic. Take a look. Sorry. Right. So let's see if Mum's been kind this week. I'm sure she has.
Hi, Clio. What celebrity or famous person would you like to see most wearing your jewellery? Thank you.
Oh, she's quite good at questions.
That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. I feel like she's really honed the craft on this season. She's getting better. Yeah.
Do you know what? Trini.
Okay.
Because she is such a fabulous stylist and has her collection of jewellery is incredible, and she has supported many small independents that I know who I've met at trade shows. So I feel like she's most likely to wear my stuff and who I would like to see. She has the most influence if I was thinking of a famous person. I mean, I'm not thinking anybody else because they wear diamonds and we don't do diamonds. Right, okay. But I always would love Trini I always imagine Trini wearing our stuff. Trini Woodhall.
Yeah, okay. Amazing. Yeah. Well, let's see if we can make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Probably not going to be on the back of this podcast, to be honest with you, but you never know.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Mum. Thank you for refining your questions for this season, because I feel like, we were just warming up in season 1. These have been a lot better this time around. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, this has been fun.
Yeah, Clio, it's been a genuine pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed it, because I know people come in and they get, you just don't know what the questions are and whether... Yeah, I don't know. I want it to be an enjoyable experience. So hopefully you had fun.
It's just like chatting with your mate, isn't it?
There you go.
About your life.
Cool.
Hope it was interesting enough.
It really was. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks for listening to JobsWorth. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like and subscribe. You can stay connected by following me on LinkedIn for more insights on the world of work, behind the scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes.